Despite kind of sputtering out of the All-Star break, the Detroit Tigers got to 60 wins.
That's right. Yep.
First team to 60.
Yep.
Another check mark on the list for the year.
Yep. They've been leading like the 10 wins race pretty much every step of the way since 20. So
yeah.
How can they lose 6 in a row and still be the first team to 60? That's honestly more
embarrassing. Because it's baseball,
embarrassing.
because they play a lot of games.
It's almost as if every team goes through a losing streak over the course of 162. Yeah.
That's a preview.
Yeah.
A little foreshadowing.
Looking at this Tigers team, went into the break on a 4-game losing streak. Started out after the All-Star break with back-to-back losses against the Rangers. They won on a Tariq Skubal start on Sunday Night Baseball, but in the 3 games against the Rangers, they scored 3 runs.
Yeah. It was ugly. I mean, going into the break, like you said, it was super ugly. The Mariners kind of beat up on the Tigers. They lost 4 games in a row in blowouts. And then you come out from the break, it wasn't the greatest all-star game for the Tigers.
No.
So you're like, make us feel good, And they dropped the first 2. They can't hit, especially with runners in scoring position. And then even the Sunday night win felt a little because Skubal was so good and they needed.
It's like, how are they going to squander this?
Yeah, they needed that late rally to sort of salvage one. Yeah, they really did. So we're not feeling good right now in terms of how it's going. But the Tigers, if I'm going to have a losing streak, I'd like to have a losing streak where I end it up 20 games above 500 and in first place, by 11 games. So the Tigers are by no means panicking, and but this does sort of bring the trade deadline into perspective and highlight some of the things that Scott Harris really needs to address.
So then, what do you address then? The bullpen?
We were talking about bullpen last week.
The lack of offense. I mean, they're not like urgent, glaring problems, right? They're still a very, very good team and all that, but you probably can't go get 2 difference makers at the trade deadline. You're more so looking at like, what if you had to address one area?
Yeah. You probably can't. They won't realistically because they're not going to trade like Kevin McGonigal or something. No. If I could only add one player, I would add a high leverage reliever with swing and miss, and that is different than what I said 2 weeks ago on the show when I was looking at a starting pitcher, and that's because from then to now, Tommy Kahnle has completely fallen apart, and I'm not willing to risk the fate of this entire season on him turning it around. Look, Tommy Kahnle was amazing coming into July. He was carrying a 1.77 ERA. Like, this had been one of our lockdown guys. But July has just been so disastrous that you almost wonder what's going on. It leads you to be like, is this just a really, really epic slump, or are we going to find out, that he's not doing well, dead arm or something like that? And that's why I think the Tigers need to go out and add a reliever, which I hate adding relievers at the deadline because everybody needs one and the market is always extremely expensive.
But like we were talking last week, the Tigers do have capital, depending on what they want to give up. I mean, they have blue chip prospects, but you don't really want to touch those. But they have some depth in the organization, too, that they could sit
They have
somewhere.
a ton of depth. I mean, they have some of the best teams at every level of the organization, and that's because they've stocked those rosters with good players. Yeah. And, they just had another draft, and you feel confident that those guys are probably going to contribute in some form. But, the relief pitcher thing, it seems like they don't usually go for, like, the top 100 guys, which is fine. If the Tigers had to move on from, like, a Hao-Yu Lee, I think that's just sort of the cost of business. But, I'm not parting with those potential difference-making guys because –
like bats moving into the future, like a Max Clark, Kevin McGonigal
exactly.
type player.
Even if you get the best reliever on the market, even if the Tigers went and made a huge splash and got Yohan Duran from the Twins, what if he pitches 2 innings in a playoff series? That's realistic, that he only pitches 2 innings in a playoff series. You traded 6 years of, Briseño for 2 innings of playoff Yohan Duran. Like, was that worth it? It's very difficult.
Depends on how far into the playoffs
Did you win the World Series?
That's the counterpoint to it. Where in the postseason are you pitching?
For sure. That's why it's a difficult job. That's why Scott Harris
the risk.
Yeah, that's why he's getting paid to lead this organization. And it's a very difficult spot, and we haven't seen him in this spot before, and we're about to learn a lot about him in the next 10 days.
It felt like they were in the exact opposite spot last season and still made the postseason and made a run.
I feel like they should go get a bat. I just feel like that the offense has been on a downturn for a little while. You got, like Parker Meadows is really struggling. You got Matt Vierling still coming off injury. I mean, he had a big hit last night. But I just feel like once you get into the playoffs, it's really tight games.
Yeah.
You need that. You need that run. You need that extra run like somewhere. So where do they find that offense?
My question to that is, how much of a difference maker can Kerry Carpenter be whenever he does come back?
Huge difference maker. He's exactly what they need right now, but it wouldn't hurt to have another one. Ken was just talking about the playoffs. How do you stop offensive struggles in the playoffs? You hit a home run. You hit a 3-run homer.
And Kerry did it.
That's what Kerry did in the playoffs last year. That's exactly what Eugenio Suarez can do, and he's been doing it a lot. Like it doesn't have to be Eugenio Suarez exactly, but it needs to be a player like him. If the Tigers are going to add a bat, it needs to be a bat with thump, a guy who's going to hit 12 home runs from now to the end of the season and also be a threat in the middle of the lineup in the playoffs, because they got a bunch of guys who can get on base, who can hit a double. But in the playoffs, sometimes you just need that one swing.
Solo shot.
That's exactly how
1-0 win.
That's exactly how Cleveland beat the Tigers last year.
With Tariq Skubal pitching.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what
Boom.
you need.
That's all you
There's
need.
the recipe.
Yeah, Game 4 last year of the ALDS, it was David Fry for Cleveland hitting a timely home run. It was like his only hit the whole series, but it was the hit that mattered, and that's why Cleveland advanced.
Speaking of series, they're in Pittsburgh coming up to start off the week, but at the tail end of this week, the team who is right behind them in the American League, the Toronto Blue Jays. Not to say it's make or break, but this could be another one of those quote unquote telling series for the Tigers. Now that they're going to be feeling some heat from a team that's going to be right behind them.
At the very least, it's fun, right? I mean, like the other best
It creates
team in the
that
AL,
postseason type of pressure.
Yeah.
Whenever you still got a couple of months until you get there.
Those series have brought out the best in the Tigers this season. And I mean, I think about the Cubs.
The Yankee series, the Cubs series.
The Cubs series was like the highlight series to me. Whenever the Tigers are on Sunday Night Baseball, Tariq is showing out. Like, these guys have been rising to these big stages. So they need to get through Pittsburgh. Of course, the Tigers draw Paul Skeens. But the Tigers need to win 2 out of 3 against Pittsburgh, and then they can come home and we can, that's a chance to sort of launch back into another good stretch.
You brought up the name. Should they trade for Paul Skeens?
Yes. Yes, they should.
What are we giving up for Paul Skeens then? Come on.
The farm, yes.
The farm?
My kingdom for Paul Skeens. I mean, yeah. Sure. Trade for Paul Skeens. Take what you want. Obviously, that would change my feelings entirely on who's available.
You heard it here for the millionth time with the Twitter sphere.
Can we also just say, pay Tariq Skubal?
Yeah.
Pay the man.
Pay him?
Pay the man. He is a true embodiment of Detroit sports right now. He is putting this team on his back. Yeah. He could have finished that inning last night. How the competitive spirit he has in that moment to not want to come out, like, that's what I want from leaders of teams. Mm-hmm. Pay Skubal.
Yeah.
Keep him in Detroit.
How long are we talking though?
I don't give him a 10-year contract. I don't care.
That's what it would take, probably. Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. It's, I would like to pay Tariq Skubal, but my advice to everyone is to enjoy the next 40 starts that you see from him.
Are you the quote unquote financial advisor in this situation?
No, I've watched how the team operates, and there is an argument to not paying Tariq Skubal $400-500 million. That I personally think that he's probably worth keeping around, but I don't know if the numbers were getting into that region. It's not an easy call. No. So I don't think the Tigers will be the ones to do it. So I'm enjoying Skubal.
We still have time.
Every fifth day while I can, yes.
And that's what we do. That's what we will do. Tigers have Pittsburgh coming up and then the Blue Jays at the end of the week. But that does it for us on DSP. For Ken, for Derek, I'm Hobie. We will see y'all next time.